At 28, she'd already been fighting to sustain her modeling career. Thanks to Justin, or more accurately, her response to the fallout, her cover shoot days were probably numbered. Sorry for your trouble. Kat hoped to evade a prolonged discussion about that relationship, a relationship that thrust every one of her faults into the open, where they couldn't be ignored or dismissed. Thankfully, Dr. Wexler patted the stirrups and redirected her interrogation. Any family history of autoimmune disorders such as hypothyroidism or lupus? If Dr. Wexler intended her relaxed tone to calm Kat, it wasn't working. Not that I know of. Staring at the ceiling tiles, Kat tried to quiet her mind during the ensuing silence. Thankfully, Dr. Wexler spoke again. Many women experience amenorrhea when they first go off the pill, although it typically sorts itself out within 3 months. Stress can substantially affect your cycle. Also, extremely low body fat could cause the disruption that's fairly common among models and dancers. She stood, peeled off her gloves, and tossed them in the trash. Kat sat upright and smoothed the wrinkled paper gown, the knot in her chest beginning to loosen. Everything looks normal from a physical perspective. While you're here, let's order some blood work. Dr. Wexler sat on her little round stool. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but something more serious could be causing the disruption. Something life-threatening? Kat's mind immediately veered toward her mother's unlucky fate. Her next breaths were strained and tight, as if the small room suddenly lacked enough oxygen. Doubtful. But we need to consider all possibilities. Kat's stomach acid began to burn. Intuitively, she'd known something was wrong, but she'd been putting off this appointment in order to forestall bad news. Why had she thought she'd be ready today? Possibilities such as? Well, thyroid or hormonal imbalances, sexually transmitted diseases, or the less likely candidates, primary ovarian insufficiency, and premature menopause. Menopause? The word struck with the force of a punishing slap. But I'm only 28. Granted, it's uncommon. It affects about 1 in 1,000 women under 30. Kat's scattered thoughts collected, latching on to one unfortunate memory. Didn't my mom enter menopause fairly early? Dr. Wexler nodded. Yes, your mother's history is a factor, but it isn't decisive. Let's draw some blood to check your FSH and estradiol levels, among other things. A small, thin version of her voice wove its way through the haze that consumed her thoughts. So I might be infertile? For years, she'd wrestled feelings of emptiness while forced to project an image of absolute confidence and sensuality. How ironic now to possibly be, quite literally, empty. Barren. To confirm that, all this time, her insecurities hadn't been a figment of her imagination. That all along, her father's perception had been true. She really, truly was just a pretty face. Her customary armor of indifference slipped for a second. Anxiety tightened her throat, making it feel like she'd swallowed a golf ball. Statistically speaking, your problem is more likely the result of stress and unhealthily low body fat. But 10 consecutive months of missed cycles is significant, and unfortunately, infertility is an issue with both POI and POF. Dr. Wexler's lips pressed together in a tight line. How long until you receive the test results? Kat's voice sounded distant and tinny in her ears. Not too long. In the meantime, try to relax and gain a few pounds. She smiled. I'm sure many women would love that prescription. Kat closed her eyes while the doctor completed a few forms, determined to reject the dread winding its way through her mind like a rat in a maze. She had barely begun to fit the splintered shards of her heart back together. How would she manage to fix this latest blow to her soul? I'll be in touch soon. Dr. Wexler handed her the forms. With a brief nod, she exited the room.